talk about a topic that I get a lot of questions about. Why do people quit a plant-based diet? Well, after working with thousands upon thousands of patients over the last, well, I've been a doctor for well over 20 years, but working in the plant-based space for nearly 13, I've come across patients across the nation as I'm licensed in all 50 states and heard the stories of why people struggle and why people quit the plant-based diet. So today we're going to talk about the top 10 reasons people stop a plant-based diet and how you can prevent that, especially if you're just beginning your plant-based journey. So if you're new to this channel, welcome. My name is Dr. Lori Marvis. I'm a board-certified family and lifestyle medicine physician and a menopause-certified practitioner. Got tons of videos on menopause as well. But I have started companies called Plant-Based Telehealth and sold it to John Mackey, who started Whole Foods and other companies. And like I said, I'm licensed in all 50 states and see patients across the entire United States. So I'm in the trenches working with people who aren't feeling well potentially on a plant-based diet, or, I get the worried well who just want to make sure they're doing everything the right way. So I feel well-versed in this subject. So let's dive right in. And by the way, there is a free plant-based beginner's guide link somewhere in that description down below. Please check it out, completely free to you. And I hope you enjoy it. And please feel free to share it with your friends. So let's dive right in on the top 10 reasons people quit a plant-based diet and how to prevent them. First of all, did you know, legend has it that in 1883, the first marathon runner to ever drop out of the marathon blamed his shoes. He said, quote unquote, not the distance, the blisters. The same principle applies to diets, right? It's rarely the journey itself, but it's the missteps along the way that really derail people. Plant-based diets, again, are no exception. So when people leave them behind, it's often due to avoidable nutritional gaps or social changes or challenges, not because the diet itself doesn't work. Okay, so let's dive into those top reasons again, why people struggle with certain pitfalls in the plant-based lifestyle and how to keep it going. Number one is B12 deficiency. So what is this science, right? So the science says that B12 is absolutely essential for red blood cell production, nerve health, and DNA synthesis. So neither plants nor animals produce B12. It's made exclusively by bacteria that live in the soil, the water, and our digestive tracts. Historically, humans got B12 naturally from, let's say, unwashed vegetables or untreated water, but modern sanitation has eliminated those sources. Even animals today in traditional, or I'd say commercial agriculture, actually have to get their B12 injected as well because they're not eating traditional foods. So that's a problem as well. So what are the symptoms of B12 deficiency? It's going to be fatigue, right? Tingling in extremities, brain fog, neurologic issues. And why does it happen? Well, because without, either making sure you have a good source of a supplement or fortified foods, your B12 levels will gradually decline. It's estimated that our liver can store about 3 years worth of B12, but if you don't consume it, you can lead to what we call a megaloblastic anemia or nerve damage, and sometimes it can be permanent. How do you prevent it? Take a daily supplement, 500 to 1,000 micrograms of B12 daily. The cyanocobalamin is the most researched and effective option, but there's absolutely other options as well. But you want to also potentially include more fortified foods like nutritionally plant-based milks and cereals. However, I would not rely on those just as your only source. When I work with patients, I see the one supplement that's non-negotiable is B12. 100% B12, okay? And what do you want to do as far as making sure that you're maintaining an appropriate amount of B12? And whether you need to adjust up or down, is get your B12 levels checked. But there's not just necessarily just B12, but I would also check your serum B12. You want it to be above 500, but less than 1100. You want to check your homocysteine, make sure it's less than 10, and check a methylmalonic acid and make sure it's not elevated. The reason I'd have you check homocysteine and methylmalonic acid is because B12 is required to further metabolize those. Or they require B12 to be further metabolized. And when they're elevated, it can be a sign that you're B12 deficient. Another clue could be if you're looking at your CBC or your complete blood count and the size or MCV of your red blood cells are large. Now, if your B12s are normal, you might want to make sure you don't have a folate deficiency. That's another discussion, but you should get plenty of folate on a plant-based diet. However, the B12 is a big, big issue. And I've seen it more than once when people start a plant-based diet, they're unaware that they should be supplementing B12. And it doesn't mean that the plant-based diet is not an appropriate diet for every human. Every single human who consumes a plant-based diet will absolutely see benefit. But like anything, we need to make sure that we're doing things well. And we're really blessed in this world that we have the technology to make sure we're doing things well, that we can thrive when we eat a diet that's not only good for the people and their health, but the planet and also animals. So don't think just because I'm mentioning the pitfalls of a plant-based diet that it's not, in my opinion, and the science, a perfect diet for a human being. Just because we can eat animals doesn't mean we necessarily should. Number 2 is iron deficiency, right? So what does the science say? So iron is vital for the production of hemoglobin, which carries oxygen through the blood. So plant-based diets provide iron in the form of what we describe as non-heme iron. That's found in lentils, beans, tofu, and things like spinach, dark green leafies. However, non-heme iron is less efficiently absorbed than the heme iron, which is found in animal products. Phytates in grains and legumes can further inhibit absorption. So what are the symptoms? Fatigue, pale skin, dizziness, and difficulty concentrating. And why this happens is you're maybe not getting a wide variety enough food, or you're not eating, again, those dark green leafies and those legumes, and or reliance on high phytate foods that are not appropriately soaked or cooked. Those can reduce your absorption, especially if you're a menstruating woman or, let's say, an endurance type athlete. And so maybe someone is eating plenty of iron, not even necessarily having heavy periods, but if they're a long distance runner, this is even outside of a plant-based diet, you can find that you're anemic. So that might be something to consider as well. So how do you prevent it? First of all, eat lots of dark green leafy vegetables. They're the most healthful vegetable that you can consume. And you can pair that. It'll help a little bit by pairing it with vitamin C, sources like bell peppers, citrus fruits, tomatoes, to boost the absorption. You want to make sure you're cooking your grains and legumes to reduce the phytates, so that will get rid of the majority and it won't be such an issue. But again, you really want to think about if you're going to be doing any type of, let's say, seeds, and you're worried about that, you could also soak seeds, sprout them, variety of things. If you're feeding mostly raw, let's say that you do, I do know some people who have soaked, if they soak, let's say, chickpeas and or some other legume and then sprout it, that's the key here, is that making sure that you're sprouting it, not just grinding it up. I would just, again, be careful. Make sure you're consuming a wide variety of these foods. And the other thing is avoiding tea or coffee with meals, as the tannins can actually inhibit iron absorption. So make sure you cook your foods, at least eat some cooked foods. I'm not saying you can't do this well on a raw diet. It just takes a little bit more work and a little bit more paying attention to the iron. So what lab test should you be testing? You can check your iron, total iron binding capacity, but also your ferritin. If you check your ferritin, you want your ferritin to be at least above 50 or around 50. If you find that you're having hair loss, or if you're finding that you're having restless leg syndrome, you may want to push that ferritin up to 75. This is the storage protein for iron. So again, focus on a wide variety of foods and you should be good. But number 3 is omega-3 fatty acid deficiency. And so omega-3s, there's tests that can tell you if you're short, or what they define as less than desirable omega. The reason it's harder to make this recommendation is because there's no RDA for omega-3s. So the omega-3 fatty acids that we're talking about, especially the DHA and EPA, these are really critical for brain health, heart health, and reducing inflammation. Now, while plant-based diets foods like flax seeds, chia seeds, and walnuts can provide what we call ALA, that's the alpha-linoleic acid. The body's conversion of the ALA to DHA and EPA is very low, right? So it's often less than 10%. And it's very hard to measure, is this stored in tissue? So there is some controversy around this. However, I will say with my own patients, again, this is just anecdotal, I have found that patients do quite well when we add in some plant-based sources of the long chain omega-3s, the DHA and EPA. And again, this comes from supplement form Also, some people on a plant-based diet are very fat phobic, right? So they're not consuming the foods that have higher fat content because they're thinking the less fat, the better. That's absolutely not true. So there are healthy fats that our body needs. I'm not saying you should eat a majority of your diet that, but you do need maybe a handful, a quarter cup or so of nuts and seeds daily. That will help you, one, also not only your healthy plant-based fats, but also you'll get some minerals and other things like that that can be very important for you to get absorption, like zinc. Again, those things come a lot of times in nuts and seeds. So people who don't eat them for whatever reason, they will be missing out. So again, I get distracted by some of the frustrations that I have in the conversations I have with patients. And because they're so dogmatic about what they've heard some gurus say or this, that, but I'm telling you via lab test and experience, this is typically the reason why people aren't getting their appropriate nutrients is because they've had some preformed idea of why they shouldn't be eating certain foods. So when you're eating a wide variety of the foods and enough foods to eat and sustain a healthy weight, you're going to get the majority, B12 exception, of the things that you need. So again, while many planters eaters may do just fine on without supplementing with the DHA EPA, I have found it can help some people who are having some fatigue, or if they're having some joint discomfort, or if they have any heart health issues. I've started taking it because it was just kind of an insurance policy, right? Because it's also very important for brain health. And I haven't seen any evidence that it's harmful, at least in the research currently. So how do you prevent it? Add more ground flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds to your meals daily. You can also take an algae-based DHA and EPA supplement if you want to. Again, this is just an idea. Certainly not required. B12, like I mentioned, is the main concern as far as supplementation. Then there's always people have protein concerns, right? So protein is very important for muscle repair, immune health, and hormone production. And then contrary to popular belief, all plants actually contain all of the essential amino acids. However, some foods and legumes may have lower amounts of some of the amino acids. So you can't just say, oh, I can only eat one type of bean and one type of grain. This is, again, where variety is important. So you can actually get all those amino acids because different plant foods will have different protein ratios. And that's the important piece here. Your body will take all that in, break it down. You'll have an amino acid pool that your body will pull and then make the proteins that it needs. But you need to be feeding it, again, a wide variety of foods, guys. It gets really simple. You just got to eat more colors and from the different categories of foods. And so what do those symptoms look like? Again, slow recovery after exercise, fatigue. Some people notice that they get a lot of sugar cravings, which is interesting. It's actually very rare to see protein deficiency, but if you have a low caloric diet intake, that can be part of the issue if you're not getting enough calories to sustain a healthy weight. So some people go on a very drastic calorically deficient diet, and that's when we run into trouble. So again, you want to eat a variety of protein-rich foods like lentils, chickpeas, tofu, tempeh, quinoa, nuts and seeds. Make sure you're getting enough calories to meet your energy needs, especially if you're doing any type of athletic endeavor. Focus on whole, minimally processed foods, again, for those optimal nutrient absorption. Then some of the problems that some people might be concerned about, especially if you have a history of osteopenia, osteoporosis, is calcium and vitamin D deficiency. But we'll get to vitamin D really is across the board, can be an issue. It doesn't matter what type of diet you have. So supplementation may be good there. If you measure your vitamin D levels, you want it to be above 30. I'd say probably 30 to 50 is your ideal, it's kind of what we call sweet spot. When it comes to calcium, I think, again, it comes to eating a wide variety of foods. It's important for, of course, strong bones, muscle function. And again, you can easily meet this on a plant-based diet, but you got to pay attention that you're not just eating just a very few amounts of food. So why this happens, again, is you're just not eating enough or you have low sun exposure for the vitamin D. But how do you prevent it? Calcium-rich foods. You can also do fortified plant milks, tofu made with calcium sulfate, tahini, dark green leafies like bok choy, kale, all those have an amazing amount of calcium. And again, the majority of the time you can get enough calcium, but eat wide varieties of foods. And I keep going back to legumes, whole grains, and those dark green leafy veggies. There's so many wonderful things that come from these foods. You can spend time in the sun, again, but you also may want to supplement just to make sure that you're getting enough vitamin D. Vitamin D is also important for your immune system. So there you go. All right. You also could compare when you take your vitamin D supplement, pair it with your meal, especially if there's high calcium in that, because that'll help absorb the calcium that's actually in the meal. So that might be helpful too. Number 6 is digestive discomfort. So fiber, again, is a cornerstone of the plant-based diet, right? It's fiber is we're so fiber deficient in this country. And wonderful thing about plant-based diets, you're going to get plenty of it. And it promotes gut health and regularity. However, when you have not been eating a really healthy plant-based diet, and you go from eating a very minimal fiber-rich diet to a very rich diet in fiber, there can be some problems, right? You can get some overwhelm to your digestive system. So legumes and cruciferous vegetables also contain what we call fermentable sugars that can cause bloating or gas. So you'll get diarrhea, maybe some stomach cramping. And then this happens, again, because of those rapid dietary shifts and improper preparation of legumes. If they're not cooked long enough, or the grains, that can cause some digestive stress, especially for people who are sensitive and not quite used to all that fiber. So how do you prevent it? You want to gradually increase your fiber intake to allow your digestive system to adjust, right? So cook legumes thoroughly, making sure they're soaking them if you're cooking them from the dried state. You could do sprouting or fermenting techniques as well if you want to. That will help with the digestibility. You can incorporate some fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, unsweetened plant-based yogurts to support gut health as well. So slow. So you might want to start with lentils if you're new to the plant-based diet and haven't been incorporating a lot of beans. Those are probably the most digestible in the plant-based bean, legume, lentil space. Would be like red lentils for sure. One, you don't have to soak them. You can just cook them. 20 minutes later, you have some delicious food. Great source of protein as well. So next is number 7 is low energy or unintentional weight loss. I absolutely have seen patients who come to me, it's like, I cannot maintain a healthy weight on the plant-based diet, and I'm eating all this food. I heard that I should eat a pound of vegetables for breakfast every morning, then I'm just not hungry the rest of the day. Well, there's half the problem, right? Understand that plant-based diets tend to be already lower in what we call caloric density, meaning you may not need to eat larger portions, or meaning you may need to eat much larger portions than you're used to meet your caloric needs, okay? Again, so if you have someone who's growing, like a young man who's an athlete in high school, like I had 2 boys, I have 3 kids, but 2 of mine were boys and they were teenagers when we went to a plant-based diet. They were constantly eating, which is great. These are eating healthy foods. They recovered very quickly. They're very athletically driven and talented, which was great. And the plant-based diet was, an anti-inflammatory diet. They excelled, but we did have to eat a lot of food, especially when they were doing cross-country. So you really need to pay attention to this. So the symptoms would be, of course, what you would think they would be: fatigue, low energy, unintentional weight loss. So we really want to focus on a few things. One, you want to add more calorically dense whole foods like avocados, nuts, sweet potatoes, whole grains. Those foods are going to be very helpful. Build your meals around the whole grains and those starchy vegetables and the legumes. That would be critical to making sure you get enough calories. And then you can also include snacks like trail mix, homemade granola bars. The other thing you can do as well is, sprinkle nuts and seeds on your salads or wherever you're putting it. Use sauces that are made from nuts and seeds as well. That can be very, very helpful, and you get those big hearty meals. So there's that piece. Number 8 is zinc and mineral absorption issues. So zinc is really important for your immune function, right? And wound healing, cell repair. However, plant-based zinc sources like legumes, seeds, whole grains, again, those phytates can be an issue. So if you don't have proper zinc, frequent colds, slow wound healing, hair thinning, You may want to really pay attention to, one, that you're getting enough zinc sources. Again, things like pumpkin seeds and nuts and seeds. Here we come again. And I've checked labs for thousands of patients, and I've only seen low zinc a couple of times. Again, it comes from not eating a wide variety of foods. I think if anything, you're getting the clear picture here. The common thread is not eating a wide variety of plant foods, and or just focusing in on one, mono meal, right, where it's just a pound of one vegetable every single morning. That sets you up for having some issues. So need to pay attention to that. If it's a short period of time, like you're doing it for 72 hours or whatever, no big deal. But if you're doing it for a long term, this can be an issue. So pumpkin seeds, chickpeas, lentils, oats, those are great sources of zinc. I do like a tablespoon of pumpkin seeds every day. And again, it just really depends on, some people have more absorption issues as well. So if you have found that you're, let's say that you're getting back to the B12, just another hint that we should pay attention to is there's certain medications that will decrease your absorption of certain vitamins and minerals. So let's take B12, for example. If you're on medications for diabetes like metformin, or you're taking over-the-counter medications like proton pump inhibitors, you're not going to absorb your B12 as well. So again, you're already setting yourself up to be lower B12 absorption. And if you go to a plant-based diet, now we have no really adequate sources of B12, and if you're not supplementing, that can be an issue. So it comes along with a few different things. I don't need to go deep into all this, but big lesson, wide variety of foods. Next is really, I think the last two are really, really important, because even if you get a wide variety of foods, you're making delicious foods and you're enjoying it and you're not having too much digestive issues and your labs are coming back, you're feeling good, you're supplementing appropriately. Well, now we run into number 9, which is the social and psychological challenges, right? So food is very much a social and cultural experience, right? So adopting a plant-based diet can really feel isolating when plant-based options, one, are limited or misunderstood. You can feel frustrated. You're going to feel excluded. You're going to get maybe bored with your meals after a while. And again, so lack of preparation or support can create barriers to staying consistent. So when you are going out, let's say, so research some plant-based options, on the menu of where you want to go, or bring a dish to share at gatherings. Eat before you go. That can be helpful. You can explore different cuisines, like Ethiopian food is some of our favorite plant-based foods. Thai curries, Mediterranean dishes, Italian dishes that are plant-based. Again, Mexican food and the beans and the rice. There's so many options of ethnic foods that can really provide variety and taste and flavor to your plant meals that maybe you're getting a little bored with. But as far as the social pressures, really important to try to find a couple of people that will support you, even if they're not eating a plant-based diet, but you can feel friendly about sharing plant-based recipes and saying, this is good, this is working for me, I'm reversing my diabetes, I'm losing weight and feeling good. You got to find someone, even if it's online. For example, Brittany Drudy and I run something called the Healing Kitchen, and we meet live every single Wednesday. We do workshops. We're about to launch our course. And again, so many wonderful things about finding in a community, but be prepared to understand that socially this could be quite challenging, especially if you have people in your home who are refusing to go along the journey with you or giving you a hard time. But just find your tribe and you'll make it through. It gets easier, I promise. Number 10 is, I think, something that people don't really think about is unrealistic expectations. You absolutely, it's kind of like starting a journey or going on vacation, right? You think that the plant-based diet is going to be transformative, and in many ways it absolutely is. But some expect instant weight loss, right? Or boundless energy or perfect health, and can be disappointed when it takes a little bit of time, depending on your current situation. So let's say that you are a 25-year-old pre-diabetic, or you're a 75-year-old type 2 diabetic for 20 years. These are two very different situations here. But this person may switch to a plant-based diet, this 70-year-old, and read the story about how This 25-year-old reversed her type 2 diabetes and lost, 20 pounds over the course of 3 or 4 months, and this person is struggling. You're a different person. You're going to have a different journey. It's going to take different amounts of time. This is just the reality of life. This is the way life is. So the sooner you accept it, quit complaining about it, and just say, okay, what is the next step I can do to get me to the place I want to be? You're going to find that your journey gets much, much easier when you stop having these expectations that are unreal. And so, again, take your time, understand that each positive change is one more change. It's kind of like the bank account of your health, right? So every time you eat a plant, you're adding to your bank account. Every time that you exercise, same idea, or get a good night's sleep, or take some time in nature, all of that starts adding up. And before you know it, you're the billionaire when it comes to health. And so I just really want to say comparison amongst people who have gone on this diet or any transformative health journey, when you compare yourself to others and you're like, I didn't do as well, I failed, or yada, yada, it really takes away the joy of what you've done already. So stop doing that, please. I don't know how many times I've talked to patients. They're like, well, it's just so disheartening. I joined these online groups and all I hear is how people did this in this amount of time and I'm just not seeing it. It's like, you're not them. You don't know all the struggles they went through. They're just sharing the highlight reel. It's like scrolling through Instagram. You just see the highlight reel of people's lives. Oh my goodness. Life is not a highlight reel, guys. It's a mountain. It's a valley. You just got to keep going. And when you are struggling, that's when you reach out for help. When you are confused and you're not sure where to go, look for people who've been here before you and are doing what you want to do. That's anything in life, but especially when it comes to something as dramatic as changing or overhauling your diet, because what happens when you overhaul your diet and start eating more plants, some wonderful things start happening, right? So you do start to have more energy. You do find that you're pooping more and regularly. You may have a little more toots, farts, flatus, and especially in the beginning, but that will get better. Takes sometimes upwards of 6 months in some individuals. You're going to find that you need a decreased medication. That's my favorite part of my job, is saying, oh, guess what? I'm going to take off type 2 diabetes off your list of diagnoses. Their energy improves, joint pain improves. They do lose weight. I have one patient that's lost 350 pounds. Oh my God. And so what a wonderful, wonderful thing. I've been eating a plant-based diet for almost 13 years. I feel amazing. I'm 54 years old. Had a little hiccup with menopause. I'm back on track. So that's why I talk a lot about it. But again, at the end of the day, you absolutely can make this happen. But I just wanted to point out a few things that people talk about. And, let's go over it again. B12 deficiency, take a supplement. Iron deficiency, get those dark green leafy veggies, soak your beans, cook them well. Make sure, again, getting those dark green leafy veggies. Try to compare those a little bit with the vitamin C. That will be very helpful. If you're having heavy periods, there might be a need for iron supplementation, even if you're not eating a plant-based diet. So again, you really, really want to think about eating those dark green leafy veggies, beans, legumes, and things. Just make sure they're well cooked, soaked beforehand. Omega-3 fatty acid deficiency, you can get your omega check done at like LabCorp, Quest. It's simple enough. Increasing the ALA foods, ground flax, and those type of things, chia seeds, all those things are going to be very helpful. Protein concerns, as long as you're eating a wide variety of foods, again, in enough calories to sustain a healthy weight, you for the majority will get enough protein. You want to aim for, I would say, minimally 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. Calcium and vitamin D, again, plenty of ways to get it in the diet except for vitamin D. Typically, you'll want to probably supplement, but I would check, test, don't guess, as my friend Dr. Joel Kahn would say. Calcium, you can check with a little app called Chronometer. Put in all your dairy, oh my gosh, all your dietary decisions. Go in there for like a week and see if you're getting enough, right? So how much should you be getting? The RDA varies depending on the age. If you're eating around, anywhere between 800 to 1200, depending, again, your age, you're a female or male, that will vary, or again, if you have osteoporosis or not. But for the most part, you absolutely can. I know I get plenty of calcium in my plant-based diet. I am not supplementing, and I'd caution any supplementation with calcium unless you're just unable to meet the full amount that you need. And then I would just take what you're deficient in, not the entire amount. Some doctors may tell you to take 1,200 milligrams of calcium when you're getting, let's say, 900 or 1,000 in your diet. You might only need 200 milligrams for whatever reason. And then that's a discussion about how to supplement, how to take it with food and different things. Digestive discomfort's easy and take it slow. Just take your time. Start with lentils. Cook your veggies, blend them up. Mechanically breaking things down will make it easier in your gut. Making sure you get enough low energy, unintentional weight loss. You're going to need to eat more of those calorically dense foods. And yes, there are people like that. There are going to be people who say, I just need to lose weight. That doesn't help me. Well, guess what? I have patients who come to me like, I have lost so much weight, I'm struggling to maintain it. I will tell you, there's more than a few of these patients. Next is zinc and mineral absorption. Again, wide variety of foods, preparation of your foods well. Don't be afraid of nuts and seeds. Do you see? This is like, I feel like I'm a record player here. Social, psychological challenges, be prepared for them. There's different ways to approach them. Just let it roll off your back. Comments are nothing related to you. It's all about them. If people give you a hard time, why do they care what goes in your mouth? It's their problem. Why make it yours? This is so simple, guys. And then unrealistic expectations. Your journey is still being written. You don't expect it to be someone else's journey, because my friends, you are a unique individual with unique history and situations and physiology. Plants will definitely get you to health, or closer to where you want to be. But again, just wanted to highlight some of the things. I get this question a lot. I hope this was helpful. So I feel like I rambled on more than you probably wanted to hear. So appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. I do appreciate you being here, and please comment below if you have any questions. I'm really trying to garner videos that are going to answer your questions and really get me thinking. Because, it's kind of helps me put the global picture together of what I'm having the discussions with my patients. And so if you really want to learn more, if you go to drmarbus.com, I also have, if you click under more, there it'll say recordings and ebooks. I have a ton of ebooks, recordings. The Healing Kitchen as well has all that accessible. I can answer your questions live. It's fabulous resources. I'm doing everything I can to provide that for you. So sending gratitude, joy, love, and healing your way. As always, have a beautiful weekend, everybody. And I might come back on here in a minute and talk a little bit about menopause, because I have some thoughts about some things I want to talk about. But thank you for being here, and I will see you next time.